Sorry, we had to get out of the way. Hello, this is Adam and Carl from Thoughts in Motion, freezing our tits off up here. And today we just want to talk about, not Black Panther, but we want to talk about why people hate self-help, and the self-help industry is sort of mysterious to some people. People don't really buy into it, people don't believe it works, people don't really fully understand it. So I want to start by saying that there's two different types of self-help. I would narrow it down to two.
Okay.
I would narrow it down to woo-woo, and I would narrow it down to actual, like, practical shit.
I think about cocktails when you say woo.
Woo-woo. Fancy one right now. Probably warm my blood up. But like, when you say like woo-woo, so like woo-woo is very much like the stuff that you'll see in like mainstream self-help, where it's like everyone's a winner. Like the typical like quotes that you'll see on,
it can
like,
be very cliche and cheesy to some people,
yeah,
basically.
Like woo-woo self-help is cliche. Woo-woo self-help is the quotes that you see all the time on Facebook that like are very generic.
Yeah.
It's aimed at like mainstream people to encourage them, to like build them up. So it's like, everyone's a winner, live your dreams, pursue this, you can do this, you will do this, all that sort of stuff.
Facebook quotes, yeah.
Facebook quotes, yeah, it's Facebook quotes. But it's aimed at the masses because it helps them feel better for like that split second, and then it's gone. It doesn't offer any real practical advice or like
That's very true,
tips and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so, and then you've got like the other side, which is the more practical, tip-based, actual nitty-gritty shit, like say Gary Vaynerchuk might post about. Like he's an entrepreneur, but he's not like he's not based in self-help.
He doesn't consider himself that field, basically.
No, but he is, based on what he does. Yeah. He's involved in that. So that's much like, you know, the other side of it, where it's like, not everyone's gonna win unless they do this. Not everyone's gonna pursue their dreams.
It's specific, very, very niche and specific to getting into the very small details of certain things. Like, if you do this and you're consistent with this, you will achieve this, basically.
But it's like woo-woo self-help is very much like surface layer. So it's like, you look at it, you can understand it, and then that's it.
Let's look at it this way. It's almost like when a kid's upset, right? Say you've got like a dad and a son, and the son's upset because he came fourth in a sporting event at school, and the dad's like, oh, don't worry, I think you're great, you can do it, you'll be all right next time. It's that kind of thing where it's like encouragement, but it can like, that's all it can be, just encouragement to the people that need it. Yeah. And sometimes it's not very practical to actually achieve things or get things done, and it's very surface level.
Yeah, and it kind of makes them feel better for the moment, but it doesn't really push them. Whereas the other side, the nitty gritty self-help, would be like, look, you probably came fourth, probably, you know, there's some things you couldn't control, but in other circumstances you probably just did not work hard enough for it. You probably just didn't train your body enough. Like, I don't know how old we're talking this is. Like,
so let's get into the
school sports day.
Let's get into the whys, and I think the reason why people stray away from self-help when you're talking about these two kinds, if you look at the woo-woo side, it's because of the cliche and the cheesiness of it. Some people take to that, some people don't, depending on personalities.
You're not into that shit.
Like, exactly. Like, people look at it in that way. I know a lot of people personally that think that about that. And then the other side of it, the very in-depth, specific niche, do this to do this side of it, a lot of people don't take to because of that reason, because they don't have the motivation or the passion to actually do it. So they stay away from it because they're like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, how am I meant to do that? And they'd rather just stay on the surface level of things.
Yeah, I think beyond like that surface level of woo-woo, below where you've got the nitty-gritty is very like nuanced. So it's like, it requires more than one thought to pick apart.
Yeah.
So it's it requires you to think of like what the advice is, and then think below what the advice could mean as well. So because most people don't want to do that on a daily basis, because it requires a lot of brain power to do that. It's like, I'm just gonna like, fuck it. It doesn't make sense to me.
It's
like,
the layers of the thoughts, the layers of the advice.
Thought processes. Like, it requires more that thought requires more than one sub thought. So it's just like, no, screw it.
Exactly. It's like, so whereas woo-woo is the surface level, and then the other side of it is below the surface level. So you've got people that stray away from the woo-woo because it is surface level, and people that stray away from below the surface level because it is below the surface level.
Like, I'm not against woo-woo self-help, but it's like, woo-woo self-help's the thing that most people see.
Yeah.
It's like, I always go back to like compare it to like modern day like feminism kind of shit, like the feminism of like being triggered and being like, you know, men hating and stuff like that is the stuff that gets people's attention, but it's not.
It's the cheesy and cliche side of it.
That's the cliche side that people kind of see on like everywhere, and like boo feminism kind of shit, like, oh, you're a feminist. But
so they associate it.
Yeah, but there's the other side of feminism that is good. The good feminism, the like equal pay, equal rights kind of shit, that actually does stuff under the surface that is practical and works, but doesn't get as much attention. That's literally how I see it. That's how I compare it.
So the reason that people stray away from it or are freaked out by it or are like, oh no, none of that for me, is because of those reasons. Because people only see certain things as far as media goes or online goes or word of mouth goes. They see a certain thing and they associate everything with that one thing, which means they're like, oh, whoa, no, none of that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of self-help as well, if you're going to go nitty gritty, it kind of forces you to look inward. Look inwards. Look, it forces you to look inwards at things that you don't really want to look at, like most people don't want to look at, and that's really painful.
Because you've got to face strengths as well as weaknesses. Yeah. A lot of people don't want to face and or admit their weaknesses because they feel like it's a vulnerability, and that it's going to attack that vulnerability, and they're going to become emotional. Or they're going to become like. It's easier to live in.
I'm awesome. Like I'm awesome how I am. Exactly. I don't need the self-help shit that you're into. You're reading self-help books. You fucking stupid. Like, I'm awesome. Just be awesome like me. Like, no, you're fucking not awesome. Yeah. You're using it to cover your depression up, basically. Like,
and that again relates back to what we've talked about before, which is putting on a front. That's what that is.
It's all this front that we feel into. Like, I saw something recently actually that is totally related to this, but it said post a selfie, fake a life. I was like, that's so brilliant. That's so small, but it's so cool.
That is 2018 for you.
Basically, people are hating on self-help because A, they don't see past woo-woo, they don't see the nitty-gritty stuff that works, and they just don't want to face the reality of their own situation, which I think is really quite sad. It's sad that people are so like, they're so against facing their own shit.
It's sad that people don't want to help themselves as well through the options that we've talked about, basically.
Yeah. Like, the self-help industry is worth absolute billions. Like, Tony Robbins makes a shitload. He makes absolutely tons based on, you know, a lot of his stuff is woo-woo, but a lot of what he says is true. I'm not against it.
So it's a bit of both, really.
Yeah, it's like, where do you fit in? Like, if you look at this crowd, it's a lot of older people that are sort of buying into it. But if you go to like a Gary thing, which is the nitty-gritty stuff, it's a lot more young people who are like us, thriving for shit. Like, I want stuff like that. So I think that's kind of like, I think that kind of covers that quite nicely, why people would actually hate on it. But it's quite sad. So I think you guys out there should give it a try. If you're willing to look past the woo-woo side of it and get into the nitty-gritty sort of, looking inwards sort of practical side of it, I think you'll find some stuff that you will actually like.
We've been Thoughts in Motion, and we'll see you in the next video.
Peace.